This is Kelly Matthews with Divine Aggression Radio. In November 2014, I got to interview one of my favorite bands of all time, and definitely one of the most influential in my life, and that's Deliverance. I went into this thinking I was just going to be speaking with guitarist vocalist Jimmy Brown, but when we got everything set up, Deliverance guitarist Michael Phillips was also on the call. And later on, to my great surprise, I also got to speak with former Deliverance drummer Mike Reed, who also plays in Jupiter 6, and current Deliverance drummer Jim Chaffin, who has also been in The Crucified, The Blamed, and a number of other bands. Huge influence on me. So it was an absolute thrill, and I didn't want this to be like all the other interviews. When did the band get started? Who were your influences? Most people know that about this band, so I wanted to keep it fun. I wanted to keep it light, and I wanted to have a good time and have a good conversation, and it was a blast. It was an absolute joy. So thank you to Jimmy, Michael, Jim, and Mike Reed for taking the time to do this. And it was awesome, and I hope you enjoy it, because it really was great to do something like this. So enjoy the interview.
This is Jimmy Brown from the band Deliverance, and you're listening to Divine Aggression Radio.
With me on this edition of Divine Aggression Radio, I have the man, the myth, the legend, the yodeling and polka star, Mr. Jimmy Brown, and along with him, not only do you get Mr. Jimmy Brown, but you also get the guitar virtuoso, Mr. Michael Phillips. I want to welcome you both to the show. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this.
We're glad to be here. Our pleasure.
And you're back in California.
Yes.
When did you move back from Alabama?
A little over a year ago.
Oh, wow.
It was October of last year.
Let me ask you a question. I think you were in Vegas before you moved to Alabama. Is that right?
Yeah, for 9 years. Yeah.
How much of a shock was that, moving from Vegas down to the Deep South?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
Mike, go ahead. He called me one day and said, "Bro, this dude's eating his freaking rat in the road." It was so awesome. He's like, dude, it's a culture shock.
We don't let roadkill go to waste around here.
Well, I will say this. A lot of the songs from the new album kind of inspired, primarily Detox. It primarily inspired me for lyrically, because there was just so many things I was just not ready for living in the Deep South. And trust me, the people are very awesome and nice and kind. But, the one thing that is very, very clear is, if you aren't from there, you'll never be in. And,
Hang on. Are you a football fan, bro?
To a certain extent.
Okay, well, he also told me, because I'm a huge Raider fan out here in Cali, and Jimmy could care less about football. He doesn't know anything about sports. So he moves out there, and the first thing some neck asked him was, he looked at her and goes, "Is it Roll Tide or War Eagle, boy?"
Yeah. That was my next-door neighbor. He comes up to me, he goes, "Roll Tide or War Eagle?" And I go, "Excuse me." He says, "You got to be one or the other, son. War Eagle or Roll Tide." And I said, is that like some sort of sport? And he said, "Yeah, it's football. What do you think it is?" And I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. Gibson Les Paul or Fender Stratocaster? And he says, "What in the hell?" And I said, "No." I go, "Gibson Les Paul or Fender Stratocaster." I go, "Those are two types of guitars, and I'd like to know which of those are you?" He turned around and walked away. He never talked to me again. Yeah, those folks weren't ready for me. I made a lot of friends there, and I still talk to a good 90%, literally 90% of the people that I met there. Good people. Like I said, I still keep in contact with them. They're very wonderful, very sweet people. But especially Olaf. Yeah, Olaf's cool, but he's actually not a native. He's from Germany. But nonetheless, I'm glad to be home.
Yeah.
The only thing I really do miss, other than the very few friends that I did make there, is the barbecue. Those folks can barbecue.
Money.
Yeah, I'm about an hour north of Memphis, and we've got in this area. It is pretty stinking awesome.
Yeah, no question. Kansas City Chief tailgate, huh?
My pastor is like the ultimate Chiefs fan. I mean, he is just all out. I mean, if you're not for the Chiefs, you're of the devil, you know.
Well, I am a Raider fan.
On the song Stay of Execution, and I've wanted to know this for the last 22 years? In the studio, the chorus goes, Stay of Execution. And when you guys do it live, it's Stay of Execution.
Right? You're wondering why we do it different?
Why don't you do it the way you did in the studio when you jam it out live?
Well, there's a good reason. There's actually a good reason.
Okay.
On the album, even though it's slightly buried, that is a 5-part harmony going on.
Really?
And it's very, very difficult. Most of the time with Deliverance backing vocals, I have to deal with, guys that are amazing guitar players like Mike Phillips, but that can't sing. They sound like Edith Bunker from All in the Family when they sing. Yeah.
Hey, I can hit the harmony at least.
But so there was a time when I was doing samples, and then having the guys fake it, but it it never sat well with me.
Uh-huh.
So we just ended up. That's why I just ended up kind of modifying it. And what I'm doing is I'm going between the third and the fifth for the line. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why it sounds kind of weird. Plus, it just kind of gives a different effect because, quite honestly, there's a couple of things with the Stay of Execution record, and Mike can attest to this. It was a transitional record for Deliverance.
Absolutely.
We were starting to take set ourselves apart from the speed metal bands and kind of wanting to do something different. Also, I was working with a hero, Terry Scott Taylor, and I really, in quite all honesty, wanted to impress the socks off of him. And so I was extremely pretentious with my vocal arrangements, with my lyrics writing, and even the way we arranged the songs. I didn't want it to be so metal, and I think Words to the kind of really was the overload of not metal, right, Mike? But I there was a lot of reasons behind it, and like I said, I love the record because it's transitional. Do I think it's pivotal? No, but it's a cool transitional record. I think with Learn, we started to kind of fine tune it, and then River is my ultimate, just ridiculous. Got loose with the palette and just started spraying paint everywhere. So and. That is something that I learned from Terry to do. He taught me to be an artist. He taught me to experiment, and it was really cool. But that's kind of why live it was very hard to replicate what I was doing vocally on the Stay record live. So I kind of like reinvented it, and I think that the transition between the third and the fifth harmony and the way I do it live, it sounds tougher. Especially with the riff, because the riff's kind of a mean riff, don't you think, Mike?
The riff is awesome. I was never completely sold on a lot of the vocal direction of that record. I don't think Jimmy is to this day. But like he just said, he was being, it was just kind of wanted to do something different. He was tired of doing speed metal for 5 years, and I was 10 years. Complete or whatever. I was completely engrossed in technical speed metal. So it was I was in Jimmy's world riding along with him.
Yeah, poor Mike. He really didn't know what he signed up for when he went along that ride with me, and that's why I think after a year you just kind of like, dude, I'm tired of doing this gay stuff, and he bailed for a while. But I mean, look, we're still doing stuff to this day.
Right.
You know, we're still working on tracks, still working on writing together. It's just, you know, it was just one of those bumps in the path, you know, and I was trying something different.
Right. Let's move on to you and Mike playing on doing As Above, So Below. That was a fantastic record, and I think one that Deliverance fans were really ready for, because Assimilation was really different. And, of course, coming off of River Disturbance and Camelot, which I loved, by the way, you know, Assimilation was something that was a little off the beaten path for Deliverance. You never was ashamed to experiment, which I loved. And when you guys did As Above, So Below, that really, I think, raised the bar. What's your, looking back now, hindsight's 2020, what's your thoughts on that record as a whole?
I'll tell you, before Mike answers, it's funny because I just put that record on for the first time in like 3 or 4 years the other day. And I texted Mike and said, hands down, this is the best solo work you've ever done. I think there are a lot of moments on the record. I think the songs can tend to be a little on the weak side. I don't like to say that, but I mean, if you and I have to be honest with each other, I think we, you know, me and Mike, you know, I think we weren't there as far as putting together the songs right. I think we were rushed by the label, and me and Mike just didn't have the time to really take the time to put into it. Now, there are some choice cuts. I love the title track, As Above, is unbelievable. I love the first half of, what's the first? Cause and Effect. Love the first half of it. When it goes into the second dorky part, that you know, I don't like that part. But the first part is unbelievable. And then Return to Form was kind of trendy, and I thought it was good. You think it's a good song? I think it's kind of trendy. It just kind of reminded me of something Disturbed and Slipknot would do together or something. But otherwise, I thought it was a cool record. But to me, Mike, his solos are so stupid sick on that record. I can't believe how good he played. And trust me, I listened to the Stay album. I listened to the stuff we did on As Above, and then in the new one, Hear What I Say, and then also stuff that we've never released that just me and Mike have worked on. And the guy's sick. I mean, Mike is probably one of the most humble guys you'll ever meet, because he just acts like he's a middle-of-the-road crappy guitar player, and he's just blessed. He's unbelievable. Now, if he could just harness the feel of David Gilmour and combine it with his turkey gobble, he would be undeniably the best guitar player on the planet. Here's Mike's take on As Above.
Well, my take is he goes a bit along with what he said as he's mocking me. He's really good at that. I hope you like joke interviews. Anyhow, the record, if you listen to it, there's some things that Jimmy was just starting to get into the realm of engineering and producing in the digital realm without tape and without all the full, like, big sounds of analog. And we recorded on an electronic kit. I mean, there's a lot of drawbacks to it. We didn't spend nearly enough time on the drums. The drummer had no idea what the vocal tracks were, so the drums, they don't really seem to fit the song like they should. The songwriting overall suffered. Yeah. And a lot of it, a big part of it was just our inability to make time to make that an A-plus record. I mean, to me, it's a C record. You know, there are moments of brilliance, and Jimmy's a super talented vocalist, great guitar player. I can play leads, and I can compose. We both have our skill set there, but we just didn't have enough time. And it could have been so much better.
Yeah, I think the standout tracks are the title track, As Above, and Screaming. Screaming is an awesome song. And then I really love Enlightened.
Enlightened.
That's such a
Mostly the songs that shine on that record are the songs that Jimmy primarily wrote and that he did the vocal, because Jimmy knows what he wants. On his trashy phone's buzzing out. It's your studio. It's not my phone. The main thing with him is he had his time he could put into his track, and so he knew the direction vocally he wanted to go, whereas on the stuff I wrote, he was more guessing at some of the ways that I was kind of giving him the ideas on the vocal melody. So,
well, because a guitar player shouldn't give vocal melody, I mean, you just stay within your realm, play with the steel and the frets and the wood, and leave me alone.
Yeah, that's the way he thinks. But
especially whenever you open your mouth to sing, it's all, Archie, oh, God, my mother. Actually, he sings on his solo album. It's
really?
Covered with mass amounts of effects to try to hide the Archie Bunker thing, or the Edith Bunker thing. But I gotta give him that. He tried.
How in the world did you record an album with Jason Sherlock being in Australia? How did that work? Did you send him the files with a click track?
I'm gonna let Mike answer that one for you.
Because I'm kind of just bamboozled over that. I have no clue. Did you send him the tracks and he have a click to play along with? Were the vocals done when he recorded the drums? What's the deal?
Well, there's a bit of a backstory. Do you want to hear it, or you just want to know the technical aspect?
Give me a little both.
Okay, so I flew out to Jimmy's studio in Alabama, Three Frogs Studio, and we're doing pre-production for the record and actually beginning to record the full production guitars. So at the time, I was my niche, I'm pretty good with drum programming. So we were initially going to just program the drums. I know. So I was there, really detailing the drum programming. So we were going through, I think I did 2 or 3 songs out in Alabama, and I spent hours and hours, at least 20 to 30 hours per song just getting everything
perfect
where the programming sounded natural.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I'd been Facebooking, and I noticed Jason Sherlock had posted a drum solo he had done. This is right around the same time. I'm back in California at this point, about 2 weeks later after doing the Alabama tracking. So I texted him, told him how great, or not text him, but Facebook, replied that it sounded amazing, it sounded great, and then we just kind of started dialoguing back and forth. He realized who I was, so I started talking to him, and I told him that Deliverance was recording a record, and I'm like, man, too bad you don't live around here, man. Would love to track with you. And he goes, well, hey, man. He goes, send me the tracks. I'll do it for nothing. You just pay for the studio time. So when I heard that, it excited me to no end. Can you imagine the mighty Jason Sherlock playing? So I told Jimmy, and of course, he was like, it's a no-brainer. So we just had to get the funding from the record label, and they approved it. So we got the funding and sent it to him, and Jimmy did send him all the tracks pretty much complete with some scratch vocals and click tracks. And he did record all the tracks in a studio there, and then they just sent them to us on, I believe they're DVDs or, external drives or something, however they were. But anyhow, that's how that happened. So Jason's an absolutely unbelievably amazing drummer, probably one of the top 3 or 4 best drummers ever in Christian metal.
I would agree.
Maybe the best.
I'm a little partial to Ted Kirkpatrick, but Jason is amazing.
Yeah, I like David Husvik, too. Very underrated. But, yeah, Ted's a great drummer in his own right.
I want to know if Jimmy is disappointed that Ted didn't have him to come in and do guest work on the Onward to Freedom album he just put out.
Oh, he said he was just bummed out that he couldn't make it.
Oh, okay. I can hear the tear in his voice.
You corrected.
No, he said not at all. He told me a funny story about Ted would call him and critique every Deliverance record.
He did. He would call me every single release and grade my record. I finally told him after the Learn album, dude, A, I'm not soliciting your opinion. B, I don't care what you think. The terrible thing about it, for the most part, is I don't listen to metal, for the most part. I really don't. So I listen to every other type of music but metal. So when people critique my stuff, I don't understand it because I don't really listen to metal. So, I mean, while all my friends were walking around listening to Judas Priest and Sabbath and Iron Maiden and Queensryche, I was walking around listening to Duran Duran, David Bowie, and, the Thompson Twins.
I think Jimmy's coming out on your show.
It's true.
This is tough stuff right here, folks.
I remember George, when he came over to my house, he looked at my CD collection and he goes, dude, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, why? And he's like, because you don't have any metal. You got like Slayer and Metallica and Queensryche. That's it. And I go, well, those are the only 3 bands I like. Everybody else sucks to me.
They don't hold up to Air Supply.
Exactly.
Sorry, I had to say that.
Supply. How can you compare Depeche Mode to Air Supply?
Oh my goodness! There's your answer to State of Execution. Just play that.
Well, I guess he was hungry like the wolf, listening to Duran Duran.
For me, my favorite bands are Anthrax, Metallica, Dream Theater. Symphony X.
Oh gosh.
Yngwie, Malmsteen, Queensryche. I like all that stuff. And Neil Morse is like one of my favorite artists these days, and he's Christian. That makes it even better. So I never really got with the whole new wavy, like alternative lifestyle sounding music. It's not lifestyle. Alternative music. Well, it sounded kind of, I hate to say the word, but it has a G in it and a Y.
Whatever, dude. That's good music, man.
Some of it.
Well, I grew up listening to, I wore out the Cars and Blondie, so,
Wow. Good man.
I've realized as I've gotten a little older, music isn't, I'd always, back in the 90s, I didn't want to sound dated. Oh, we don't want to sound dated. I've realized good music is good music. I don't care if it came out in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or today. If it's good, man, it's good, period. And that's just my opinion. There you go. Take that and $8 and you can get you some Starbucks coffee.
There you go.
No question about it. I completely agree with you.
Oh, you do not.
Oh, I do.
All you listen to is
Ambrosia.
Oh, you only like anything Ambrosia because
I love Pink Floyd, so he's wrong.
That is weird. That's the part I don't get because I like the feel first and then the technicality. Then why don't you touch the feel?
Oh my goodness.
You're a technical monster, man. There's no question.
Hey, listen to the lead on.
But if you could get the solo on Nude's unbelievable, but if you can get the feel of Dogs. You can't play. He's all mad now.
It's all right, Mike. I promise. It's okay. Hey, okay. Here's the question for you, Mike. Metallica or Megadeth?
Oh, that's a tough one. What do you mean it's a tough one? It's a no-brainer.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you put a gun to my head, it's got to be Metallica.
Megadeth sucks.
Megadeth's amazing.
Dave's a horrible.
The first record, Chris Poland, it shreds the lights out of a lot of stuff that ever came out.
His voice is gross.
Steve Sells is an unbelievable record. Then he got Marty Friedman, and he's always had fantastic musicians around him. But it's hard to top Master of Puppets, in my opinion. Rise of Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. Those 3 records are among my top 20 metal records ever.
See, I hate Justice. I think it's a terrible sounding album.
Well, he can say what he wants. That's my opinion.
My only beef with it, I wish it had more bass guitar. That was my only.
And the drums are way too over EQ'd. They're just too big and in your face. The guitars sound fine. His vocals sound fine. Black Album was when he started ending everything with
singing like a pirate.
Yeah! He started changing his vocal style.
Yeah, and here we are in a 2-bit studio, and they're selling millions of records.
They're not selling millions anymore.
Well, they've sold enough of them.
Nobody's selling millions, dude.
I know.
The ass-trap trends, they're awful.
Well, one thing I'm going to have a lot of trouble forgiving Metallica for was that Lulu record. That was, I'm sorry, that made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. The one they did with Lou Reed.
I have to be honest with you, I haven't listened to anything Metallica beyond Injustice for All, so I really don't know.
Oh, you don't know the Black Album very well?
No, only by the radio hits, the Sandman deal, and
I
don't have anything they recorded past that. I checked out. I don't like Sandman, but dude, that Wherever May I Roam or Nothing Else Matters. Some of those, they're good songs, whatever. To me, Metallica was a thrash band, and they disowned me as a fan. So go ahead and play your soft metal. It's Justice was the end of Metallica. Actually, when Cliff died, that probably ended Metallica.
For me. That's Aftermath where I was done.
Okay, I got to ask this question. Jimmy, what happened to your guitar on This Present Darkness?
Which one?
Live in the studio.
Oh! That's because he sucks at playing lead, and he just gave up.
There's partial truth to that. But no, I'm actually not ashamed of my lead playing. I don't care how bad it is. But I
actually really good.
I hit the clean channel. And when I went to go do the foot switch, instead of hitting the boost channel, I hit the clean channel. That's what happened.
Because before the song, you hear like a and I think Kevin says, "What's all that noise?"
Oh, that was Phillips.
Oh, was it?
That was Phillips making all that crap noise, and then
my preamp.
You could hear me even say, I looked at him and I go, firewood, dude, because I used to tell him his guitar was firewood.
Yeah, because I play Jackson's and he hates Jackson.
Because there's only one guitar. Well, there's only two guitars, Fender and Gibson. Period. The end.
Hey, what did you think of the Striper cover?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And Jimmy nailed the high note at the beginning. It was like, dude. And I thought y'all did great on it. I played it on my show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I love that song.
Him and the engineer, when I came in for mixing on that, they were laughing where they were almost busting their bellies open with hernias. That they soloed my high track because I sang the high harmony part.
Yeah.
Never heard so much laughter.
Those harmony tracks, I know when they're soloed, they're not pretty. They're never pretty.
Hey, but I nailed the note, bro.
Yeah? I mean, hey, it worked. It sounded good. Oh, and at the beginning of the call, you never got that rhythm right on that gung-gung.
Yeah, you're right. You never did, Mike.
Whatever. Well, we played in Dallas 2 shows there, sold-out shows. Dallas was the most unbelievably friendly people ever. And we played back-to-back nights, and the first night we played with a band called Transcendence from Dallas, Texas. Mm-hmm. And they asked us before we went on stage if they could play Slay the Wicked, because it was a song in their set.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, no big deal, no worries. It was in our set too, and whatever, it's cool. It's kind of an honor, somebody's going to do your song. Well, they came out and they played it better than we could. They freaking blew us away.
Oh, they
were so good. We pulled it out of the set, and then that ended anybody doing our song. So, of all the bad stuff we got, there was some talent out there that's unrecognized. What else can we do for you?
Oh, hey, Kelly.
Yo.
You were talking to me and Mike about As the Boss.
Yes.
You've got to ask Reed some questions, because, Reed, you got to tell the story of how you were brought in with that whole thing. I mean, you don't have to go into, no, it's full piece, and I'm better than
Yeah. The bottom line is Noah Bernardo, POD's Noah Bernardo. He says, hey, these guys need a hand. Okay, great. I give Mike a call. Mike says, sure, come on up. We hook up in Vegas with Jimmy and Mike. Next thing you know, they're eating pizza pie, and I'm cutting an album.
So it wasn't play the track again a little better. It was hand me another slice of pepperoni.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it went. They disappeared. Here, push that, and I'll be back in a minute. Next thing you know, they come back, drum tracks are done, and that's how it kind of went. It was fun.
So how many
tracks? Had a great time.
How many tracks did you play on?
I think I did 7 out of those 10, and then Kevin, I think he did the 3 or 4, and he just got faster feet than me, so you know.
And of course,
he's awesome, man.
Why did we, Mike? Why did we get Reed? I think. I mean, all right. Mike told how he got the call from Noah and all that. But,
well, Jim and I did a band called Face Down. I don't know if you heard of that.
Yeah.
But we had a band on Rescue Records because Jim and Noah were friends, so we got a deal with them. So I became kind of friends with Noah a little bit. Jim's like buddies with him. But anyways, I had his number, and we were looking for a drummer to play with us. And so I called him, like, well, maybe he knows somebody. So I called him, left a message, and he called me back and said, hey, this guy Mike Reed, you know, he's a good drummer. Here's his number. Give him a try. So we called him up and set up for him to come out to Vegas to try and experiment with some tracks. And we had Kevin Lee on part of it. Kevin's 4K is speed. So, and some of the tracks required more of that Deliverance style that's not so much speed but more nuanced stuff, which that Kevin wasn't so good at. So Mike came in and was extremely good at. Mike had a really good meter. Mike had good sense of rhythm where the song needed to be and everything, and stepped in and right away, as soon as he started tracking, we're like, oh, yeah, this is going to work. So he, to his credit, he had no time to work on the material. He stepped in and just pretty much nailed it and had very little time to do it. I think he would probably agree with you. It could be better, but it also could be way worse. I mean, he did
I would say I would agree with you, Mike. Like if we had time to really get together and work parts out and do stuff, somewhere in a rehearsal space, I think that it could have been, a better situation. But there was stuff that I'd never even heard. I just walked in and Mike says, hey, it goes like this. Go left, go right, go up, down, 2 clicks down,
And tracks for the record without really knowing the feel of the tune. So to his credit, I mean, he did an amazing job in his situation.
And I think it was one of the it was just a fun time because it's a cool album because you have like Mike said, some of those nuances of vibe and that whole deal. But then when you listen to like Cause and Effect and those type of tunes where you hear Kevin just going off, and some of the time signatures Mike had Kevin doing with the 7 feel, odd time signatures, it just really sounded great,
Now, am I way off here? I might be totally got the wrong people. But I watched concert footage of Deliverance playing. Now, Mike Reed, was that your son who came up and played with Deliverance on No Time?
Yeah.
That is Junior, yeah.
Little Junior, man. He, Mike Phillips called him the micro shredder at the time. He didn't want to take Jimmy's spot on the solo. You know why? Because Jimmy said, Jimmy was just busting the kid, man. He was having a good time. He's like, well, you're going to take my only solo of the night? He's like, I'm not going to do that. So then when Jimmy called him out on stage, he's like, nah, go ahead. It was a good time, man. And that was, I think he was maybe 11 or 12. He's 16 now, and, he's doing his thing, man. He's got a band called Voltage Control, and he's up and running. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I just know for his age at the time, man, it was great. He was shredding. I really enjoyed it. I saw a picture of Deliverance online, and it was Jimmy, George, Jim, and Victor Macias.
Right.
I don't know if I'm the only.
Correct. I'm back in the band. I'm totally playing. No, it's just George. Yeah.
Has anybody told you look like a stable from like a heel wrestling organization? You've got the guy, you got Jimmy who does the talking. All right, next week, Ric Flair and a reanimated body of Randy Savage, we're coming after you. And then you got the tag team champions, Jim and George. And then you got Victor, who's the enforcer. He's the guy when the referee's back is turned, he slides the chair in.
Snap into it, man.
Oh, yeah.
With
George snap into a Slim Jim.
George cracks me up because George says he looks at that picture and, you know, him, Victor, and Jim look like rock stars, and I look like, hurry up and take the picture because I want to finish smoking. Getting something too.
All right, I have to ask, what is up with the new re-records?
Identity obscured. I'm sorry, what was the question?
What's up with the new the re-records you're doing of some of the older Deliverance songs, and you're re-recording them?
Why don't you ask Jim Chaffin that question?
Yes, Jim Chaffin. What's up with the re-records?
You re-recorded What's Joke.
Feel free to elaborate.
Sorry about that. What was that? What was the question?
Tell me about the re-records that Deliverance is doing now.
Well, it's just a little more updated version, you know, not necessarily different as far as structure goes and stuff, just the tones. Obviously, the drums are a little different, you know, but the guitar parts are the same, you know, everything's pretty much the same. So people who liked it are still going to like it. It's just got a little more of a modern feel to it, you know.
And
Absolutely.
It's fully metered.
And it's fully metered.
It's fully metered.
Whatever that means.
Jim,
was that what that clicking sound was in my earphone?
Hey, listen, you guys, really, for reals, thank you guys for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it because I'm serious. When I was growing up, you guys were like my musical heroes. I would put my headphones on and play along with the first Crucified album and Pillars of Humanity until my fingers bled. And I listened to every Deliverance album frontward and backwards when I was younger and just absorbed it, and it became part of the soundtrack of my life. So to all you guys, really, thank you so much. I appreciate you not only doing the show, but thank you guys for being willing vessels and changing my life.